Episode of the Everblack Podcast is brought to you by Deathwish, Hotrods and Kustoms. Check out their Instagram for all their new t-shirts, caps, beanies, cups, and the all-new Atomic Death lineup. Thanks for joining us on the show, Fiona, Spiff. It's nice to see you.
Thanks, Nev. Great to see you too.
Well, of course, your new band, SEAWITCH, has just released your debut album, Well of Spells. And as I said before, it kicks so much ass. It's raw, it's heavy, and it's everyone just seems to be loving it, like including myself. And how's it been seeing all the reactions online? Like,
I think it's been really exciting because that's where, like, online, as you say, is where we get to sort of connect with people these days. I mean, every time you get like a notification and there's something saying, oh, this magazine or this podcast has given a review of the album, and you go to it and you're like, kind of like, ugh. But so far it's all been...
Yeah, it's been very positive and very lucky to have that, to, stick a bit of art out there and have people dig it. It's wonderful, because a lot of our friends are still playing and doing the same thing, so it's good to do something fresh together.
Yeah, because we both come from other bands, obviously Death Effects with me and Hellman with David, and then other bands more recently, like locally, like M16s and Purple Urchin. But it's like to actually create a new band, write completely new songs, and for me personally, to be picking up a guitar again and writing with David, and we write from nothing. Like, there's no sample. Like Death Effects was all about layering samples, and we'd get Slayer South of Heaven and layer it with D-Light Rivers in the Heart and off you go. But with us it's like from nothing other than ideas. So it's been exciting. We wrote these songs, in August of 2020 now.
Yeah.
Some more recently than that, but that was the period. Actually, no, when we're talking about it was June 2020, because we're in ISO.
Yeah.
We wrote a song a day.
Yeah, at the start of the zombie apocalypse back then in COVID era.
You can say that, I guess, without getting into trouble these days.
But I don't know. From that period of time, I think it's weird saying that, but from that period of time, I think a lot of creativity came out. It's incredible. I mean, it's a lot of tragedy and a lot of sadness, but mate, like we've been really blessed with some amazing albums and new bands, like, in creative outlets like SEAWITCH, like you guys. What was the first point? Who called who? Who went, hey, you want to have a jam? Like, was that you, Spiff? Did you call her up, or? Yeah,
guilty. That's me. They said, come on over and play in a band.
We should explain where I was, probably. It wasn't like I was across the street. I was a bit further than that.
It's pretty radical, really. Like, Fiona was in the Caribbean, as you like to say, and I was here in the southwest, down near Margaret River, and basically we met online through this similar... we reconnected.
We knew each other 30 years ago.
On the phone, and it said reconnecting, and it was like, oh, that's weird. Yeah. But it was because of something on Facebook or something like that, and we met up and started chatting, and then I was like, hey, why don't you come over here? That was just before the zombie apocalypse, and
it had actually started. Like, I mean,
it had started.
Putting it in context, David reached out to me on May 10th in 2020, and I had stopped flying. I was meant to be flying another airplane, working for another company. I was working as a commercial pilot over in the Caribbean, and but COVID, we just grounded everything. And it was literally in that moment, David sent me a message on Instagram Messenger, it was, and said, or messages, and said, what are you doing? And we started reconnecting because we did date 30 years ago. We were both in different bands. I was in the Mothers and he was in Hellman, and late 80s, early 90s, before Death Effects, we did a lot of gigs together. We were kind of part of a waterfront label, so there was the Hard-Ons and there was Spunk Bubbles and so many different bands. We'd just do all these gigs together. And then when Death Effects took off for me, David and I sort of went he did other ththings, I did other things, and to reconnect 30 years later, what he said to me was, you should come over and do music. We'll make a band. We'll call it SEAWITCH, and I'll give you a Fender 1978 vintage Strat, and you can play that if you like. I know you haven't played guitar for a while. I thought, God, I've played guitar for 30 years. I don't know if I can even remember how to do it. But he was very encouraging. And so I ended up getting a repatriation flight, doing 2 weeks ISO in Melbourne. He drove across the country to get me because there were no flights. Brought me back. We had all these passes and all this stuff. It was very intense. And then
8,000 Ks.
Yeah. When we got back, I flew from St. Croix in the US Virgin Islands to Los Angeles to Melbourne, did all in plastic gloves and shields and sterile, and did all the ISO stuff. But when we got back here, we had to do 2 weeks ISO, and David has a music studio. It's not this room we're in now. It's another great space. It's a garage that's converted. And so we wrote a song a day, and that became SEAWITCH. And that's what the album Well of Spells is. It's 8 of those songs. And we also did a self-titled EP last year and released that in June. It's just self-funded, did it ourselves, put it out digitally with Manic, which is a little indie label in Brisbane. They distributed it for us, and that was some of the songs we wrote as well. Yeah, that's how it all happened. And now we're doing gigs,
The doors seemed to, it was flowed very easily. It wasn't too much of a struggle considering how difficult those times were. Things
kept us working out,
and prolifically just songs came out, and that was, it was unreal.
It's amazing how that can happen. Hey, although the journey to get there sounded like it was quite a mission. Sounded like you passed a few hobbits going up a mountain on the way, and then but you got there.
There was no, but it wasn't like there was border check-in points and times you had to be there, and a bit of BS you had to cut through some red tape.
Yeah, it was pretty gnarly. But to write music again, and especially as to write it from scratch. And David had said to me, you could just make your lyrics, some of your spells and things. And in Death Effects, I had put some of my witchy kind of interest into the songs, but very subtle. And this was overt. Let's just turn this spell into a song. And that's what they all are too. If they're not literal spells, there's certainly reflections on living life as a witch. And that was actually David's idea, not mine. But we've written some new music, and the next song we're recording in a few months is called Lockdown City, so it isn't hard to work out what that's about. So I guess it's just reflections of things. And but we're loving it. It's good fun.
And of course, the sound of the band is very different from Death Effects. As you mentioned before, it seems right now is the perfect time for a band like this, because I'm seeing it a lot, especially in Australia. We're getting this resurgence of desert rock, stoner rock, and it's just there's a scene that's really bubbling up. And is that what inspired the sound of the band to bring back those rock?
It is different because we've got a drummer in this band. Drummer number 9 is awesome. And
but with the stoner stuff, it's like that was something.
We're always into that stuff. It hasn't like we set out to do that. It's the same sort of music that we've liked, and maybe it's come back around in fashion 20 years later.
Well, one of the things like David and I would what David will listen to when he puts on some vinyl that he has, because we're in his house, it's like he'll play MC5 or Zeppelin. It's all 70s rock. And then when we were talking about what music do we really love, and I could say Kaya Scream Machine, one of my all-time favourite songs, but I could also say My Bloody Valentine Soon, which is completely different. But, when you start thinking about the songs you're really passionate about, I still remember the first time I heard Led Zeppelin. I was 12, and I heard Stairway to Heaven on a little AM radio I had in my bedroom, and my life changed. When I heard that song, and when it got heavy at the end, I was like, anything's possible. And it just... So to be playing heavy music now, me personally, because it's such a, I love that. So when Death Effects got heavy, it was really exciting. But I think but we were more dance really most of the time. So with David, both of us kind of deliberately going, okay, we can just make this as heavy as we want. And then David's friend Brad Miller is our bass player, and he's best bass player. He's like bloody freight train. Ripping down the tracks. He's got the heaviest sound. He won't go anywhere without an 8x10, preferably 2 of them. And
but that excitement comes from all the volume, because sometimes you're standing there with sax, and your flares are moving, you know, just with the speakers going like that, and it's a buzz, you know, that's why you do it. It's like, you know,
I always think it's really
surfing big waves or
Yeah.
something that's fun, or you know, not
Well,
that
David's
big,
a good surfer, so he
I
surfs
don't
big
surf
waves.
big waves
Yes,
like
you
my
do.
mates. They
Pretty
surf
big.
giant waves, but yeah, that's the sort of buzz you get from that stuff, and jamming and playing gigs is just fun and it's awesome. I mean, not
Yeah.
trying to do it for fame or money, you know, hey, don't quit your real job. But you never know. I mean, Fiona's travelled around the world more than I have in the band. We toured all over Australia, and you know, you're not trying to do it for that reason. You're doing it because you love your music and just want to put it out there and
See what happens.
see if it might get received well, and move on to other things. If we can get playing onto shows like we used to, that'd be awesome. You know,
Well, at the time as we're talking to you, I mean, we're super excited because, you know, we're leaving. We've been packing today. David's been sorting out his guitar and everything because we're going to be playing with Stoner when we get down to Victoria in a couple of days from the time you and us are sitting here. So that's, you know, to think that we're getting that opportunity, and then, you know, performing at Do the Pop, which is the festival. You know, there's New Christ playing as well, and there's Murray Lally, the Rubber Snake Charmers. I mean, they were one of the first bands that did that. Were at that time, you know, when all that stuff was. And then when I lived in California for like 12 years, and I used to always love driving out to Vegas, and I'd go through that whole area of where that sort of desert rock scene started. And you know, I know that feeling, that where that music comes from, that sense of space and just that timelessness. So yeah, to be able to do these gigs that are coming up, and to be performing with our heroes, you know, it's pretty.
I
pretty
love the
good
Aussie
thing.
bands too. I mean, Aussie stuff at the same time had its own. Mudhoney and all that was doing the grungy thing back then. Australia had its own thing going on in Sydney and Melbourne, and it's amazing. And I love Melbourne because it's that, you know, Detroit, you know, a lot of bands there, Board, Powder Monkeys, all of that stuff. And Hoss are the only guys out of that group left going and cranking.
And they're playing with us too. They're joining us for our album launch.
It's all that new cool scene and Grindhouse and all the guys putting on the event. They're great bands. So I'd be excited to check out the Aussie contenders as well as that whole, you know, Snake Charmers and the whole Desert Fuzz scene, just to see what gear they're using and get, you know, listen to those cool sounds that they make.
Yeah, absolutely. And you know, I just, you know, Fiona, you were talking about living in California and driving out to Vegas and the whole space and the desert thing. I think maybe that's because I've been trying to put my finger at it. Why Australia has why is that scene bubbling up now? Why is it so strong? I think maybe you've seen it. You could probably explain it better than I can, but maybe it's because Australia has a lot of desert, a lot of sand, and maybe that's where we've got that kindred spirit, you know, like the.
Well, I think one of my personal favourite bands, talking about Aussie bands, is a band out of Brisbane called Death by Carrot, and we've done tons of gigs with them. We love them so much, and we just love that they get in their van and they just drive, or they are. They just drive around the country and do gigs and gigs and gigs and gigs, and do the like Riffmageddon, and just, you know, when we get to play with them, we just love them. They're amazing, and I think that's, you know, they embody the pure spirit that is the Australian, I think, real stoner fuzz scene. That it would have to be Death by Carrot, because SEAWITCH are like, we've got a few, you know, we are talking about stoner, but we've got like,
we're more of a rock band, really.
We've got different influences coming in that. And it's funny, we were only talking about it today, that different people like different songs. Like, we just found out that PBS in Victoria, amazing community radio station, have added Dark Night to their top 10 tracks this week. So and I'm just like, that's pretty heavy. That's, you know, and the way we play that song live, it's like turns into a 10-minute dirge. It just goes berserk. But, you know, it's like one of the longest and heaviest songs on the album. But then, you know, our record company, Wally and Cheer Squad, he loves Shadows, which sounds really, really does sound like MC5, you know, which is sort of, you know, totally different again. A bit more funky, yeah. So, which we have got these different influences weaving in, and we're heavy enough to kind of be embraced by the stoner scene, and that's a blessing. And so certainly live, you know, we definitely fit in
I
there.
mean, everyone loves fuzz bells. I mean, how can you not use them for that?
We're talking about all that stuff. I mean, you recorded in analog, right?
Analog, yeah.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure. Yeah, there might have, you know, most of it was like that, and then there was a mixed down part that might have been digital to that. Yeah,
It was What Studios up in Scarborough. So
he's the best of both worlds. Yeah, in the end, yeah.
He converted his house into this studio, and so, you know, you walk in and you see this rack of, you know, vintage amps on the wall, and you can just plug into any one of them and play, you know, and you've just got like, I mean, it was just like walking into a scene out of 1970. It was amazing.
There's more amps in there than my house. Every you know, half a dozen tube compressors on the vocals or a drum mic or whatever. That's all nice old vintage gear.
Sounds good, hey. Like it sounds, this album's, it's got, obviously I understand there had to be a little bit of technology in there. No one's sitting there cutting up tape anymore and sticking it together. Thank you.
So we do remember that, doing that, eh? We should say as well, one of the things, you know, with making the album, it was a real labour of love because we couldn't have afforded to do it except that I applied for a government grant. I mean, here we are in COVID, but Western Australia was very lucky. When the border was locked down, we couldn't leave and no one could come in, but we could kind of function within the state. And so we, during times where the rest of the world was literally stuck in a lounge, like in their bedroom or their lounge room, we were like able to do things. And I applied for a grant to record an album, and from the West Australian Department of it's such a long name, it's like the Department of Labour, Sports and Culture, I think it is, and they have these music grants, you know. So incredibly, I've never applied for a grant before. It was so much work. It was the most intense thing to do, but it was successful, and we got enough money to make, it was under 15 grand, but what we did with that money was we made our album, we made 4 videos, we got all the art, the amazing art I'm wearing, the T-shirt, Cindy Singh, incredible artist, designed this art. Like, we were able to do all of this stuff because of that grant. We were so lucky.
Yeah.
And then what we did with it, like how we've run with it since then is, you know, we've obviously poured our own money in and tons of energy in, and to keep it going. And but yeah, we were very lucky. But that album was compared, like when I was in Def Effects, and I would think of the tens of thousands of dollars that was spent at, you know, Studio 301 and Jazzle 301 Studios, wherever it was, and just, I mean, my gosh,
videos,
and everything, the videos, like 2 videos, and, you know, it was just, we did our videos for $1 grand each, you know, $4 grand total, and I mean, check them out, SEAWITCH, the band, on YouTube. We're proud of our videos. We've got over 20,000 views, you know, it's just, they're awesome. And we keep using the same guy, Alex from Simple Ben, I'm blanking on his name, Alex Hopkins from Simple Ben Productions, who's, he and I work really closely together because I've worked as a producer and done stuff in, you know, in front of and behind the cameras in my other life, working on TV. So he and I work very closely together, and you know, we just been able to do a lot with a little, you know, and the album was really, considering what we got out for what we spent, was very, very lucky. Everyone worked very hard. Yeah.
In regards to the band name, what was, I mean, because there's a million band names out there that, you know, you could have picked, but SEAWITCH is so, it suits everything you guys are doing, like the sound. But was it, I think I saw it, is there a pinball machine or something which
I until after I thought of the name, but yeah, I thought of the name straight away. It was just like, oh, you know, Fiona's a witch.
And I was living on a little island in the middle of the Caribbean, and I was also like sailing on boats a bit too.
She's a diver on the surfer, and she said, oh, I was going to do a blog called SEAWITCH. And I said, what a great name. This is the band. And then our bass player said he was going to call his old boat SEAWITCH. So it was, you know, meant to be.
Had to be.
Love it. I love it. And it looks cool on shirts, as you mentioned before, too.
We love it. We love it. Look, even if you think our band sucks, you're going to love our merch. It's bloody awesome.
Yeah, thanks, Cindy.
I don't think anyone is going to say your band sucks.
I'm being silly. I mean, I hope no one does, but so far oh my gosh, it's been really, because in Death Effects we would really polarize people. It was like 50% of people loved us and 50% hated us, like, but I haven't really had that with SEAWITCH. I mean, people have said, oh, no, it's good, especially when we play live. Like, we did some shows with the Hotrods recently over here in Perth, and it was just packed out. It's so good to play with all. We've known those guys.
Really
they were incredible. Tim singing for them now, so amazing. Yeah, but to get to play these packed out epic shows with them, with this, everyone's staged on and going crazy. It's like, oh, I've just been teleported back to the 90s. Like, it was wild. But yeah, even they said, they gave us like big compliments, like said that they really liked our band.
And that probably means more to get thumbs up from those guys.
Yeah, from people. And
we used to play with them back in the
30
day,
years
so
ago.
they know our stuff.
And Ray even came up to me and said, like, Ray bass player hard and said, you're singing better than you did, 30 years ago. And it's like, and yeah, it's a big honour when you can kind of reconnect with your peers and your friends and do this. And then also you've got people who don't even know what you've done before, who are just getting into the music. I've loved that some people who are obviously not in our age group, like a lot younger, have come up after shows and said, that was sick, you guys are awesome. And we're like, oh, thanks. It's like, it's a lot of fun. Who would have thought?
Yeah.
And in regards to the music, obviously lyrics, you mentioned that you draw a lot from your spells and things like that. Now, this is one thing I did want to ask you, was obviously words and intention. It's both very, very powerful things, as in probably from your practices. But do you think that, how can I word this, that it can be used to manifest positive and negativity? And I think sometimes people don't realize what they're putting out into the world. Is that something that that you're very aware of when you're writing your own lyrics and things like that?
Well, that's sort of what I said when we started, wasn't it? It's like, let's make some music, but with a positive meaning behind it. And Fiona said, I've got this cool stuff ready to go, wasn't it?
Yeah. I think being that the lyrics have all been kind of either directly drawn from spells and rituals that have been created to, change, like shift a situation or to a harmonious or positive resolution, or to let go of something that's difficult and challenging and is feeling like it's becoming, unhealthy or toxic. That I'm just thinking of a song like Dark Night. That song is about letting go of things that are becoming toxic and unhealthy, and invoking the goddess Hecate at the crossroads to, bless me with her presence threefold and release the pain, and so you can move forward like these, and be more useful in the world or whatever. So these, like the chorus in that song is, lift me higher, purge from me my darkest hour. And that's literally comes from a ritual of kind of trying to let go of grief and sadness and even anger and fear, So when you actually perform this stuff live, like when I'm actually singing this stuff, I often feel like certain words of the songs will move through me, and I get that same feeling ritual when I'm, especially with other witches. It's the same feeling. That's quite a powerful transformative feeling. So, I mean, you could kind of be listening to the music and just getting into the vibe of it and not really understanding what the words are. And, any show when it's going off is going to make you feel good, like as an audience. But if there's witches who are listening and actually understand the lyrics, and they're going to pick up something a bit more. And then sometimes it's just that bit more anyway, But I've always found that with performing. I mean, in Death Effects, people who weren't even who maybe weren't fans of our recorded work would still come and see our live shows because they just went off. And maybe I had quite a bit to do with that, I've heard. Obviously something happens when I'm on stage, and I think with the combination of the band now, we all come together as a chemistry, that allows this kind of powerful energy to happen.
I'd say we probably got our act together more than we were younger, that's for sure. And it's very positive energy. There's nothing dark about it. It's uplifting. I find it's great, especially with, what Fiona's put into it, yeah, it lifts you higher, literally. That's good. It's about nature and just being. Yeah, it's pretty cool. The vibe of it, music.
That's what I got from it. And that's what I was saying, like, you know, you're trying to put this positivity out in the world, you know, and where some people, and words are very powerful things, as I was saying, you know, and I think that's where some people, they put out that negativity and they don't realize what they're doing. So we need more of what you guys are doing.
Well, I love that you've noticed that and enjoy that. I mean, when we we're talking to Cheer Squad, like, well, we do lyrics and lyric book and that, we're like, yes, you know, definitely we want the lyrics to be printed. Oh, Christian just fell off the couch. We definitely want the lyrics to be printed so you can see what they are and, you know, play them in that perspective. So, yeah, I think of a song like Shadows, you know, like, you know, it's let the shadows fall behind me, got the sun in my face, got to keep moving, let the shadows fall behind me. It's like there's that's part of a ritual where you turn your face to the sun and literally let the shadows fall behind you. That's you know, so yeah, I think I'm glad that you enjoy that, and I hope other people do too.
Absolutely. And you know, you just mentioned, Spiff, that, you know, obviously, you know, about, you know, sorry, it's late for old man Nev. Sorry, let me rewind. So obviously, you know, when you're up there performing, you're talking about going off and everything like that. But I find that when I perform, I find I black out in a way, and I just let it go, and I don't know where it comes from out there. But do you guys sort of get what I'm saying there? Like, where do you think we draw these creative energies from out there in the universe? Where do they come from?
I think it comes from the same place. You know, that I'm doing the same thing. It comes from, you know, a good
definitely
place.
Comes through you, not from you. It's a bit you're definitely the channel for it, and you're definitely maybe the framework, but the energy that moves through you is
it's all connected.
Yeah,
and the audience is connected with you, and you're connected with us,
and we kind of
connected with you.
It becomes like a magnifying thing where you kind of magnify it, and you know, we can even feel it when, you know, even if it's like where there's not a lot of people and you just kind of like, or everyone's just kind of standing back and sussing it out. You can still get that amazing feeling, but nothing beats it when the audience becomes reciprocal and it just becomes like this beautiful flow. And yeah, that's why it's such a privilege to be doing this again, you know, to be doing music like this again.
I agree.
You
know, that feeling, and even jamming. I don't know. Do you guys get that when you jam just in a room together? And
with drummer number 9, our drummer now, it's the best because he's an old mate of Dave's, Adam Shaw. He's the most incredible drummer, and we're so blessed to have him. He's just heaven.
Yeah,
and you can just go so hard when you jam with him.
Brad, the bass player, and Adam have got a connection, and Brad and me have got a connection. Fiona and me got a connection. We're all you're feeling it, so you know where they're going to go now. That's
so much fun.
You know, it takes a while to get there with the right people, and then, you know, jamming is a joy. You got that happy hour, don't you? And you can play live, and it's all going off. You know what they're thinking, and it's so much easier to play with good players like that.
Yeah, so you know, just have your back no matter what. Like you can just let go, and they're there. You know,
today, and you just feel like you're just connecting all as one unit. I love it. I love it. I love that feeling when you look over and you go, man, this is the best thing in the world. It is.
Yeah.
It's the best thing in the world.
It really is the best thing in the world.
Jamming's like surfing. It's just, that's it. You're in the zone. That's the two best things. Or maybe there's some more other things that are good. Music is amazing. That's great.
I can't surf though. I sink. I can dog paddle, but
swimming, walking, yoga, whatever.
David's quite a good surfer. He's been surfing for a long time, and he's a good surfer. Like, he's really good. All the Groms here, and everyone knows him, and they're all like, looking up to him.
Don't go on about that.
Yeah, he gets embarrassed, but
I just think that, you know, I say to my mates, why do you play music? You know, and I say it's just like surfing, mate, because they don't play music, they're surfers. Like you're a muso, you don't surf, but that's the same sort of thing. You're in the zone, you can do it on your own, you can play guitar on your own, or you can play with a whole band, which is even better. You know, it's fun.
Well,
So-
might have to get you to give me some lessons if you come up to the Gold Coast, because I would love to see you play Moe's if there's anywhere like.
Yeah.
Oh,
We just went to the Goldie. We'd love to come back. It's awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah.
when did you play Goldie?
Oh, it was a whole different thing. We have an acoustic duo that we do that's totally different. So we did like a little tour there, but not SEAWITCH. But we do a couple of SEAWITCH songs acoustically for fun. But yeah, it's a whole different thing called Spiff and Fifi. It's like different thing.
Different
we
world
both-
out there. It's like
yeah.
Las Vegas, the Gold Coast. Haven't been there for 20 years. It's pretty wild.
We had a wonderful trip. We were there in June. It was great.
Where'd you play?
We played Twin Towns a couple of nights, and we did what was the
We
club
did one at Noosa at Sunshine.
Sunshine Beach.
God, that
yeah.
place has changed since the 80s. I'll tell you
Yeah.
that.
And then where else did we play?
Um,
Manny booked them
Around
all.
the
Manny
Gold
of
Coast.
Bushworth group put it all together. Manny K. We played at Beanley Tavern. We did a bunch of shows around.
No, that's like up the road from where I am. Didn't
there
even
you
know.
go.
No, but I would definitely love to see SEAWITCH on the Gold Coast. Is there talks? Can you?
We're going to try because this trip to Victoria was really championed by Wally, who's our record company, and so and Cheer Squad is his baby. So he was like, oh, I think I can get you on Do the Pop and get you with Stoner, and then we organised our own, show at the Tote, our album launch on Halloween, actually on the 31st.
We nearly made
So
it. We actually had a
we
good
were
book.
actually we were booked. SEAWITCH was meant to do Wallapalooza in last year, and then because of COVID, it kept getting pushed, and then
The
we were
floods.
rebooked to do it, and the Premier of Western Australia kept the border closed longer. He said he was going to open it, and he kept it closed another month. So we didn't know when he wouldn't open it on the day he said he was with that point. It was the 5th of February. We pulled out of Wallapalooza, which was meant to happen in May, and so they replaced us with Cosmic Psychos, and Deaf Effects were going to do it too. It was going to be Deaf Effects on one time of the day and SEAWITCH at the other time of the day, and so Cosmic Psychos replaced us. And then, as it turned out, Wallapalooza was moved because of the floods, and in theory we could have done it. We tried to get back on it because by then the border did open. The Premier decided to open after all in March, and but we missed out. So maybe we'll get Wallapalooza next year.
Maybe
You never
next
know.
year we'll come over.
Fingers crossed.
Real. Yeah, absolutely. I'll tell Andy. Andy.
Yes, please.
Andy. He knows me.
Bring it.
You know me, Andy. All right. But hey, it's been absolutely amazing talking to you guys tonight. Thank you so much for hanging out on the show. We will have all the links down here for SEAWITCH. Well of Spells out now and on vinyl too, which I'm very keen to give a spin right here. You can
Yes, it's better on vinyl.
We'll come over and have a jam.
Yeah, they'd be the best. But hey, thank you so much again. I really appreciate it, especially going so late. But mate, awesome. Love what you guys do, and we'll see you very soon.
Okay.
Thanks a lot.
See you,
man.
Nev.